this Thursday, November 11th. This one's at 8 p.m. I want to say that's earlier than they usually are. Aren't they usually at 9? So, but I double checked it and it said 8 o'clock. So, and I haven't sent the link out for that yet. I don't think I've got it. So I'll send that out as soon as I get it.
It's still 9 daylight.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, probably.
December 8th is our annual members only winter dinner at Maley's restaurant in Westlake. What time does that start, Dave?
We look to start showing up between 5:30 and 6. It's a cocktail hour from 6 to 7, then dinner at 7.
Okay, so there's a sign-up sheet over there, I think, somewhere.
Yeah,
if you're interested in going, sign up so we have you on the list. And you'll have to make a selection of what you want to eat as well off the menu. And then January 5th will be our first board meeting of 2022 already. Hard to believe it's 2022 coming around the corner. Location to be determined. We were having them at Bob Evans, but Bob Evans changed their hours for staffing reasons. And so they cut our meetings short. If you're not a member, do we have any guests here this evening? Yay, well, welcome. Are any of you from BW or hear about us through BW at all? Good, excellent. So welcome. Like I said, this is our second meeting here at Baldwin Wallace University. We're very glad to be here. Club membership, if you're not a member, has lots of benefits. It's our membership drive right now. For individuals, it's $25 a year. You can come to our winter dinner. You get access to our monthly newsletter. We have overnight permits at the Cleveland Metro Parks and also at the Medina County Park District. And also, we have an observatory out of Medina County Parks that you have access to. So I'd encourage you to look into joining if you like what you see. I just wanted to say thanks to some of our partners as well. Obviously, Baldwin Wallace University, Channel 3, WKYC, Jay and Gail in their in the Sky program that they've been doing has been helping us out a lot. Cleveland Metro Parks has been a longtime partner of us, and as has Medina County Park District. So I want to thank our partners as well. So that's all my welcome and announcements. I'll hand it over to Vice President Dave Nudie, who will introduce our speaker.
Trevor, can I just say one thing?
Yes, sir.
This meeting is on the campus schedule, so there shouldn't be any problem with the BW parking police giving out tickets. But if you get one, just email me the number and I have the power to get that fixed. If you park on the street, for real, we'll tow you away, and I can't do anything about that. So I can fix on campus.
Well, that's a lot of power. I'm sure that's a revenue generator for them.
Oh, yeah, they will.
They'll give you that power. They must really trust you.
Just in case, as long as everybody knows.
Alrighty. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Tonight's speaker is Frank Shoemaker. He's a club member and our webmaster. Tonight, he's going to be discussing images he's taken, starting with Haley's comment back in the mid-'80s, all the way to the present. Most of his photos are current, and he's going to talk about how he made them and how he processed them. And Frank, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome.
All right, let's see if I can get it up here on PowerPoint. Okay, these are just images that I've taken that have an astronomical bent to them over a number of decades. Let me see if I can get control of my computer here because my mouse isn't where I want it to be, but that's okay. I bought my first camera with paper route money back in the 60s. So I've been doing this for a while. Almost all these images I'm going to show you were shot with Canon full-frame DSLRs. Only the first image was made with film. And there's a couple of drone shots in here as well, which you can actually use for astronomical images. For shot planning purposes, I use photographer's ephemeris a lot, which helps me find where the sun and the moon will be. That's available as an app on your phone or at app.photoephemeris.com. I use Heavens Above to find satellite passes, ISS, and so on. And Google Maps for planning. In these kinds of shots, planning is a big deal. For image preparation and processing, I use Adobe Lightroom for cataloging and organizing, and for most of my image processing, I use Photoshop for more complex processing when it involves layers and masks, and add-ins such as Topaz Labs, Denoise AI, and Sharpen AI. These are new tools they've been out just in the last couple of years. They're using artificial intelligence, and what Denoise AI does for the noise in an image is unbelievable. It's just amazing how good it is. For astronomy, astral processing is Star Stacks and Deep Sky Stacker, and then also PixInsight. And for time-lapse processing, I use LR Time-Lapse. So that's the software I use afterward. My guiding principles are patience, persistence, and attention to detail. That, of course, that works for any aspect of life, right? And also, my attitude is when I press the shutter button, I'm not even halfway yet to the picture I want. So I usually spend more time in post than I do actually getting the image in the first place. And I found it usually takes 2 or 3 attempts to get the shot that I want. So, I'm willing to go back and try again if when I get it back on the computer, it's not to my satisfaction. So, okay, this is Halley's Comet from March of '86. This was shot, because the only image I'm going to show you today was shot on film. This was a Pentax single lens reflex. I shot with Fuji 1600 ISO film, and this is a pop quiz. When I had the image processed, I had them push it to 3200 ISO, or as we call it in those days, ASA.
Yeah.
Right? So what does it mean to push process an image? No one knows.
You increase the sensitivity of the
Huh?
emulsion. You increase the effective sensitivity of the emulsion in processing.
Yeah, in chemistry. Was there?
I don't know the chemistry magic.
I don't either.
Yeah, did you used to keep the 1600 all the way up to 3200 ASA film in a refrigerator?
Well, this is the only time I shot that film because I knew I wanted 1600 ASA ISO. So normally I was shooting Tri-X-Pan at 400 ASA and that sort of thing. But this I wanted to shoot, and you can see it's a little hard to make out, but here's the teapot. Halley's was right next to the Milky Way. That was shot in Tucson, Arizona, and the story behind it was I'd never been in the desert before. This is 30 or 40 miles outside of Tucson, is where I went out to shoot it. And I went to the Saguaro Desert Museum, and I was there just looking around. And then I asked one of the people there, I said, I'm going to be shooting out in the desert in the middle of the night. Is there anything I need to worry about, animal-wise out there? And he said, you're going to hear the coyotes, but they won't bother you. And so I was set up on the side of a road in the middle of nowhere out there. And while, I had the tripod and whatnot set up, you could hear rustling in the bushes around the sides of the road. And then they started howling. And it's a good thing that ranger told me I didn't have to worry about him, because that tripod would still be sitting out on that road right now if I had known to not worry about the coyote.
You don't have to really don't worry, meaning they don't come to you.
I never saw them. I could hear them walking around in the brush.
Multiple?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
They generally don't bother humans. There's
Yeah.
been like 1 or 2 coyote attacks.
yeah.
well, now, now I'm seeing pictures on Facebook. I live in Westlake of people that see coyotes all the time in Westlake. They're out there, so.
You don't leave your dog out at night.
Well, yeah, one of the animal wardens in Westlake told me that there's a lot fewer rabbits around now. Because of the coyotes.
Not in the metro parks. Oh,
All right, why can't I change to the next slide? There we go. It's a transit of Venus, shot out of an open window in my house on the second story. So this was back in June of 12. My daughter was assisting, because that's the day she graduated from high school. So she was helping me get that shot. In all my shots, I show you the technical characteristics of the shot. I'll be glad to answer any questions about them. This was in the Santa Fe Desert, outside Santa Fe, New Mexico, with the full moon coming up with lightning around it. I went out to shoot the sunset, and there wasn't much of a sunset, and I turned around, and here was this thunderstorm going by, and the full moon was coming up. And that night, I came back to the hotel with 70 images with lightning in them. It was amazing. It was just the storm that wouldn't stop. How did I shoot it? Well, it was definitely one of those right place, right time shots, right? I mean, it was, I hadn't intended to get the moon. This was shot from Bay Village by Lake Erie, 7 years ago now. It's a composite of a bunch of shots. And what I like about this is how you can see the refraction of the moon as it gets down to the horizon. It was incredibly clear that night, right down to the horizon. So that's a composite of a bunch of shots, obviously.
Hey, Frank, when you point to stuff, you try using your pointer on your laptop so the Zoom people can see where you're pointing.
Oh, okay, let's see.
If you can figure out the tools on that.
If I can figure it out here, yeah, but it's not letting me take the mouse where I want it to. There, okay.
Yeah.
So this was a shot, this is not the kind of a shot you can plan with photographers ephemeris, because I knew that on that night, the moon was going to set near where the sun was setting, so I went out and got the sun setting, and then the moon came along and set shortly after that. So this is another composite. These are the kinds of shots I assemble in Photoshop. Let's see, next shot. This is the Detroit Superior Bridge. I shot it down on the flats, full moon. I got it to align nicely with the lamp.
How far back where were you?
I was down on the flats below the
Oh,
bridge.
that's right. Yeah, I'm like, that's a.
Yeah. It was one of the things that I'll mention in this is that in Cleveland, we're fortunate because of the layout of the city along the lake and other aspects I'll talk about to get some nice alignment of astronomical objects with landscape objects. So here's the full lunar eclipse from 2014. I took a few shots. This was shot from Bay Village of moon coming down and eventually getting into the trees. And I shot a number of images that night. When I got back to and got them on the computer, I realized that, what is this? It's Uranus.
Really?
It happened to be right by the moon.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it when I was out shooting. It wasn't until I got it back on the computer that I saw. I said, what is this? So, because it looked like Uranus, the green color, but it was a heck of an alignment. Another example that, this is the Lorraine Lighthouse. It lines up with the sun and the moon at different times of the year. It's just a really fortunate alignment to get it. And again, this is the kind of shot that you develop with photographers ephemeris, and you know that if you're there and it's clear, you'll get that. This is a shot from Zion National Park. It's the top of a trail that leads back into to the end of this box canyon. So you're looking down the canyon toward the west. You can still see some light from the setting sun back here, but And then those are cars working their way up the canyon. So just an interesting shot. When I walked back to my car, it was dark and I had a flashlight. It's the only time I've ever seen an actual wild tarantula that was on the path in front of me. And I stepped gingerly around him.
And you lost another tripod.
Was that?
And you lost another tripod.
Yeah, somebody probably picked it up by now. There's another one, it's a 180 degree view of the Milky Way panorama, also from Zion. Very dark place. That was in August, so. Nice. This is a shot from Avon on the Norfolk and Southern tracks, which are east-west tracks out there. So if you can get out around the eclipse, or I'm sorry, around the equinox, then you'll get the sun or the moon coming up over the tracks. Another shot set up with it. Another example of alignment of the celestial objects with the city around Cleveland. We are really fortunate. This is a shot that occurs in basically November, December, January. Those three full moons will come up more or less over the city. Now that's a composite shot because there's no way you can get the city and the moon in a single frame because there's just so many stops difference in brightness. The moon is so bright on a night like this. So that was shot in January. And at the same time, I had another camera out there and I shot, now let's see if I can make this work. This is actually a video I shot. It was going on at the same time. And the clouds helped. When I put that video on Facebook, it got 100,000 likes. Yeah. Now, the trick is to get past this. Oh, it worked. Am I going too fast?
No, good pace.
Okay. One of the things I try to get are very young moons. This one is 39 hours old. Shot this on the Norfolk and Southern tracks. Shot at 600 millimeters. A friend of mine said, "What the hell were you doing on the tracks with the train coming in?" And I said, "Well, you know, that train was more than a mile away when I shot that image because it was still, this crossing here is about half a mile away. So it was, you know, how very telephoto lenses like that.
So you were able to get your tripod out of there?
Yes, I was. Just the whole,
So we didn't lose another.
didn't get run
This
over.
all shows how Frank loses
I like what
tripod.
the telephoto lens does to the telephone poles, utility poles.
Yeah, these are actually very tall. You know, these are very high powered lines, but they're, you know, 60, maybe 100 feet tall, going out for miles along those tracks. But, no, that's a single image, single shot.
At what time? What time is that?
Well, it was not, you know, any very thin crescent moon like that is going to be visible only for a little while after sunset. It's going to set shortly after. So the sky is still bright in the west. This is looking west. So I don't know the time of day. It was in September. It would have been around 6:30 maybe in the evening, something like that.
Use any filters?
I'm sorry?
Use any filters?
Not with that, no. The problem with shooting this kind of shot is the moon is not that much brighter than the sky, right?
Yeah.
It's so thin and the sky's still very bright. This business here with the locomotive and its lights, that's all blown out on the image, but that's okay. It lit up the tracks and that was the kind of shot I was looking for. But the tracks here in Bay and along Westlake are really due east and west. So around the equinox, you'll get this sort of an alignment. This is a shot from the garage of the Cleveland Clinic. This is the next day. And these are images, this is a composite. Those images are about a minute apart, maybe two. And I was able to get the moon all the way down in between the buildings. I guess I should be using the pointer, shouldn't I, kind of? Down here. So most people say, take a shot like this once every minute. I take it once every 15 seconds. And then depending upon the alignment, I'll pick every fourth image out so that I can get, you know, a minute apart, but then I can pick out shots that you know, get behind the building and below the building like that.
Are you bracketing each of those as well as you go?
Am I what?
Are you bracketing each of your every
No,
interval?
with this, with the sky still kind of bright and the moon not all that bright in the city, the dynamic range wasn't that huge in the shot. Probably some of the top of key tower is blown out. And these are lights from Progressive Field. There were a game going on that night, but that's very bright. But the rest of it, the dynamic range wasn't all that great. Let's see. Same night,
Nice.
different moment, longer lens. That one,
That's 100 millimeters?
it's cropped.
Okay.
You know, I think I was
That's
fortunate to
detail.
get some detail on the moon.
Yeah, that's impressive.
A very clear night, a very transparent sky. Hmm?
So I'm surprised you didn't get an earth channel.
There is a little bit, it doesn't show up on the projector, but you can see it here. It's faint.
Zoom, you can see it on Zoom. Now you're all glad you showed up.
Yeah, yeah, the projector doesn't show it, but it's there.
Nice crepuscular rays.
Anti-corpuscular rays. This was shortly before sunrise in Massachusetts, at Rockport, Massachusetts. I was out shooting early. Wasn't much of a sunrise, but you know, one of the things about a photographer's motto is always turn around and see what's behind you. And there was this. It's the only time I've ever remember seeing him, certainly the only time I've ever photographed them. But they were quite distinct in the sky. So that was a fun shot. Milky Way from Maine. This is near the ocean. In one of the, this is a tidal backwater off the Kennebec River. Very dark. Now, this is the opposite side of the country. This is from the Oregon coast. Part of the appeal to shooting the Oregon coast is they have these nice rocks in the water, right? Which gives you something in the foreground, because when, you know, my attitude when shooting a landscape or an astronomical shot like this is you really want to put something in the foreground if you can. And so the ocean there worked out well. You know, being an Ohio boy, I'm not used to tide, so I was shooting right down by the water. And I had to keep backing up because the tide was coming in on me.
Forced to tripod.
While I was shooting. Another lost tripod. It's getting expensive, you know.
Yes.
This is a panorama of a number of shots across with the moon just setting and then the Milky Way above with some clouds. Pretty much the same location, but higher up, away from the water. This is the solar eclipse near St. Louis. My son-in-law, this is his parents' house, which is by far the biggest house I've ever been in. It's enormous, but it was right in the path of totality. So I took my daughters down there and my son-in-law to hang out in this enormous house. These are tricky shots to get because there's such an enormous difference So I shot 5 exposures, 3 stops apart, giving me an effective 15 stops. Because the light right by the limb of the sun is about 14 stops brighter than the edges of the image. So this is another shot, took a lot of planning to get right.
Kind of flare.
Yeah, there's one over here.
2017.
Yeah, right around there. Here's more flares. There's some here, and then there's some up along this edge as well.
How much did you get to see visually, given you were doing all this shooting?
Well, with 2 minutes and 40 seconds of totality, I think it was, it's like, I did try to look up from the camera.
Yeah, I took like 2 or 3 shots, and I remember thinking, wow, I wasted so much time with my head down on my camera.
To me, what was amazing is what the sky began to look like in the last minute or so before totality. It got a kind of a steely, strange color to it. It's the first time I've ever been in totality like that.
Yep.
Well, 2024, right? We've
Yep.
got another big one coming. So there's a diamond ring with a little bit of flaring over here. Shot out of my backyard, not a great shot in my opinion.
On your backyard.
Yeah, in Westlake.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, what about my backyard?
No. You said something about it not being very good, and we're like,
Well,
Yeah.
because the galactic center is blown out down here. So, but this was shot with a normal DSLR and a 400 millimeter photographic lens, guided. 50 subs, 30 darks.
so is that 210 of total exposure across your 50 subs, or I presume?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
each were like
Well, wait,
4
yeah.
seconds or so?
You know what? That's wrong. It's not 210 seconds total. I think they were probably 30 seconds subs, so
Okay, yeah.
50, been 25 minutes of exposure plus the darks. So, but now I have a real telescope, and winters are coming, so it'll be back again if it's clear. Another alignment, it's unbelievable the alignments we have. That is a setting moon, not rising. So it was shot just before dawn, about 20 minutes before sunrise, so that there was still a lot of light to light up the lighthouse. And I was way back, almost a mile from the lighthouse away. But these were photographers out on the pier in front of me. And when I put it on Facebook, a bunch of them were saying, "Hey, that's me. That's me. I'm the second one from the right." This was a shot that I had in mind because it happens in December. That I had in mind for 3 or 4 years, and finally the weather cooperated. So I got out there early in the morning.
Have you sold any of these? National Geographic?
I have some stuff up on the web, and I sold a few pieces, but
Yeah.
if I did it to eat, I would weigh less than I do right
I don't
now.
know about that. They're pretty good.
Yeah, I'd starve. This is Palouse Falls in Western New York or Washington State, shot in June. Those falls are 200 feet high. They're almost twice as high as Niagara Falls. And the night I went out there to shoot, there were some other guys there that were lighting up the area with some lights so that the cliffs got lit. And then I used light painting to light up the falls on that. It's about it's a 12-shot panorama going across. So let's see. BLA. When I went to visit, it happened to be that the telescopes were all in the middle. not spread out over all the many miles of those tracks, which helped. And to help, if you're not familiar with this, just to give you a sense of the size of these telescopes, that's a staircase right there. And so is this down here. So to get up to the top, you climb up these stairs here. You know, it's New Mexico where storms come and go. And a storm came through and rained a bit, and then I managed to get that.
Can you shot for the garage?
I did have shots of the garage. Yeah, but
Sometimes if there's somebody working on one of them, that's a good scale shot.
yeah. This was on my way out. It was about to get dark. This is shot from about a mile away. They moved the telescopes around on a pair of railroad tracks, not just one. There's a pair of them. So you can see the two tracks there. And then shooting down to the middle where I guess the apex, you call it, where all the telescopes sit. I think if I had shown up at a day that they happened to be, I think that they were probably doing maintenance because they're all just pointing straight up in the sky. They're not, actually in use, I think, at that point. But I consider myself fortunate that they were all together, which makes them much more photogenic, This is the composite shot I put together. The foreground with the road is actually taken from a drone shot in the middle of the day. This is the high desert in New Mexico. And then I added the mountains from another shot in the Milky Way from the third shot. So it's this 3-image composite. It's really a fantasy shot. You would never see it looking just like that, probably. This is also from Washington State on that trip. That's actually me here. That's a selfie of me walking back to the car to get the other camera while this thing was shooting away. So this was on a farm. Out in the Palouse, if you're familiar with that part of Washington, it's just rolling hills with wheat on them and canola. This is the Perseids from a few years ago, shot down at Salt Fork. There's 21 meteors in the image, and so it's a 21-shot composite of them all with the northern part of the Milky Way showing up in the image.
Now, when you say 30 seconds, is that the total on a composite, or is that 30 seconds each shot?
Each.
Okay.
What I did was I set the camera out and put an intervalometer on it to shoot 30-second images once every 35 seconds. So I figure I had the camera open 30 out of 35 seconds. That's a pretty good ratio for just snagging, the meteors coming along.
Yeah.
So that worked out. This is a Flagstaff, it's a Clark 24-inch refractor. They had an open house, and you can look, it's a handheld shot inside the dome, obviously. That's the original dome from way back when, that Percival Lowell was, seeing the canals on Mars. This was shot at ISO 12,800 because it was very dark. And then I processed it through Topaz Labs Denoise AI, which is a miracle tool, I think. Even though it's handheld, you can see a few stars outside the shutter up on the dome. So that was a memorable night. Just a little ways down the road from Lowell Observatory is the meteor crater, which is another awesome site. I mean, it's hard to grasp how big the thing is, even when you're standing on the edge of it, how deep it is. They have some human-sized dummies or figures down inside, so you can barely see them. I mean, they're just little specks down in here.
They're all going like.
Yeah. So that This is a drone shot from outside, looking down on it. This is the visitor center over here. So the previous shot was shot from over here looking that way. It had clouded up by the time we left. So another drone shot of Cedar Point with the full moon coming up behind it. This, I was over on the shore at Sandusky, so this drone was about 2 miles away when I made this shot. But the moon was kind enough to come out from behind the clouds just at the right time. This is a very young, 32 hours. That's about the youngest I've had so far. This is an old moon rising just before dawn over downtown. Another example of a shot that was, well aligned with the buildings in Cleveland. We're fortunate that way. Then this shot is 2 weeks later at the full moon. This one was taken from Bay Village, which is, instead of being about 3 miles away, the first one was taken from Edgewater Park. This one is from Bay. The first one's about 3 miles away. This one's about 14 miles away. Which, what I did was I combined the two shots this way to show you how big the moon appears when you can get back from the subject. So at 12 miles away, the moon looks gigantic. At 3 miles away, not so big. But then I merged the two shots together, so the buildings are all in scale with one another. So the one on the right is the first one, and then 2 weeks later for the full moon coming up. This is just a shot of the crescent moon with Venus right by it from a couple years ago. And it was a very clear night. You can see a bunch of gulls sitting on the water over here. And then I noticed the reflection here, especially the reflection of Venus. So I went and shot that by itself and got that. And I thought, you know what, there's a shot in this. The river was pretty still, not a lot of breeze. So this is a shot that I made later, a couple weeks later, in the Rocky River. It's shooting the reflection of Venus off the still water. And it's composite of a handful of images together. So I call it Venus scribbles, on the water. Then we get to the comet. So this is from last summer, this is the first shot I got of it, about 4 in the morning, down at Edgewater Park. Just as it was getting light to the east. This was looking toward the east. And then in the days ahead from that point, it became an evening object. This was at Lorraine Harbor, an amazing alignment, I think.
Yeah.
And there were a bunch of guys out shooting this thing. And they light up the lighthouse. It's illuminated until 11 o'clock, and then the lights go out. And at 11 o'clock, a bunch of those guys packed up and left. And I thought, you know what, that's a big mistake, because this was so bright. The lighthouse was so bright with the lights on it, it really blew out the comet. But once they turned the lights off, and it was just the ambient light from the city and whatnot, they got much better balance in the brightness between the lighthouse and the comet. And wound up with this shot. I'm sorry?
Is that by chance the aurora across the lake there?
No, you know what that is? That's Detroit.
That's Detroit.
Yeah, if you go down to the lake at Huntington, it's very easy to see the lights from Detroit. Because this shot is actually looking kind of northwest toward the city. Another shot with Trevor's favorite tree in it. Because Trevor kissed his wife for the first time underneath that tree. I know.
See what you learned?
Too much
You know, the Comet was nice enough to line up with it. Then I went out to California a couple days later to see my daughter who lives out there, and this is up on the California coast, a few hours north of San Francisco, and I actually picked up a little bit of the Ion Trail on it as well, which takes pretty dark skies. It's pretty dark up there. This one is just a shot of the comet with the setting crescent moon off the California coast with some rocks in the foreground, you know, some stones. And then from the same spot looking south toward the Milky Way, the bright lights is Fort Bragg, California, which is a pretty big town. For that part of the coast, California is very remote up there. Pretty big town, but not big enough to have a Walmart. And then up here is, you know, this is from last summer, so here's Jupiter and Saturn. They've exchanged places now. Drone shot early in the morning, and if it's still out, I can get a 4-second exposure on a drone, and it's still solid. It's not, you know, it's not blurred. If there's much wind, forget it. But it was very still, and I like this shot because I got a reflection of Venus on the water. And you know, this was shot at 4:30. So there's, well, that's light from Cleveland on the right, over there in the distance, in the rain probably. So this is about a year ago. This is just a pretty shot of the crescent moon, Seneca Lake, Ohio. I went down there to try and get some shots. It was a little disappointing because there was a lot of lights around with cabins and marinas and whatnot. But it was still fairly dark, but I managed to get this shot. And what I liked about it is, because it is fairly dark, it's hard to see the dipper up in the sky, but it's easy to see it in the reflection of the water. You know, reflections are about 3 stops darker than the sky. So I exposed it to get that instead of the sky. Here's Trevor's favorite tree again, with a different view. This is stacked in star stacks, which is a very easy to use, very good program, and it's free. It's a freebie. So STARSTAX, star stacks. Yeah. It's several hours of exposures. And Star Stacks gives you the ability, they have what they call comet mode, which trails the lights from the stars a little bit. But, you know, you can get an idea by looking at an individual star path. So that's, you know, that's probably an hour's exposure, 15 degrees, something like that.
I noticed on the left it says former tree. Does this no longer exist?
They took it down.
Oh.
They took it down. Yeah, couldn't believe it.
Oh.
It's my favorite tree of all time. And there's a million pictures of it. But yeah, the Metro Parks took it down because they said it was rotting.
No.
And this is, Gary, that's Detroit, over there on the left. Another drone shot of the full moon rising over Pittsburgh. With the Allegheny River on the left and the Monongahela on the right come together to make the Ohio River. So I shot this on my way up to the Adirondacks. Again, photographers ephemera said it's going to be right over the city. So this is from the Adirondacks. First time I was shooting around lakes a lot, and small lakes, not like Lake Erie. And boy, as soon as the sun goes down, they start misting up. And you can see the mist on the lake here and over here. There's Jupiter, Saturn, and Milky Way, partly obscured. This is a drone shot way after dark. Full moon, with just a huge amount of mist billowing up off the lake. And once I got it back on the computer, I realized, hey, I got the Pleiades. So they showed up. This was shot down at Hinkley Lake. I was a little surprised because just looking north right at the lights from Cleveland, we got pretty good star trails for some place that's not all that remote. This was shot last December. Star stacks again, but you can see how far more lights there are in the sky compared to the reflections off the water, which because of that 3-stop difference. M42, this was shot with a Stellaview 80 millimeter and a Canon 6D that I had modified to have the IR filter taken out of the camera. I'm my worst critic. The center of the nebula is kind of blown out, so it's coming back again for winter. I'll get it better next time. Here we are this past June with the partially eclipsed sun rising over the lake. Fortunately, it came through the clouds.
I pulled over on 71 to take a look at it, and I got rolled up behind me and wondered what I was doing. Nice.
That's Cedar Point from Vermilion, about 17 miles away. There's only a few days during the year when it sets behind Cedar Point, as seen from Vermilion. But very long lens, 700 millimeter. And you can see some of the other rides there, like the what you call this?
Did you do anything with the hue on that picture?
Well, yes. My attitude is the picture is what I say it is.
Yeah.
So I just adjust it to the point where it pleases me, whatever that means.
It's where the artistry comes in.
What's that?
It's where artistry comes in.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I mean, it's the technical side showing up at the right time, at the right place, with the right lens and in the right weather. And then when you get back on the computer. I just came back from a trip to Maine a couple of weeks ago, and I stopped at the Corning Glass Museum in Corning, New York on the way out. This is the first failed casting. It cracked. The mold cracked while they were casting it. So that's 20 tons of Pyrex glass scrap. They have it set up there, and then it's hard to see how big it is in the left-hand picture. This is in the gift shop on the floor below. So you can see they had this big pedestal here with the mirror resting on the thing.
The web is going to be even bigger.
Yeah,
And in the frickin' space.
it's
I hope that
it's a large piece of glass. But they have it there, and it was pretty cool, I thought. This is from Maine, hands down the darkest place I've ever been. Darker than the Arizona desert. This shot, however, was made before dawn. You can see, it's hard to make out, but here's Orion. There's the belt and there's the sword. But the light was coming on from the dawn enough to light the hill in the background. In Maine, that's about 700 feet above the lake. They call those mountains, and most people would call that a hill. Another very, 38-hour-old moon setting. When I first got to this spot, I couldn't even make out the moon. So photographer's ephemeris has an augmented reality feature where you can hold it up and it shows you where the moon is. So I was able to look and find it. And this is a very heavily processed shot because with the clouds, the moon was very low contrast. But that was setting, and this to me was a great evening because I got out there before dark, got the moon setting, and then Venus came along, and I got its reflection on the water, and there's some stars from Antares up there. And then once that set and it got dark, then the Milky Way came out. This is shot with an Ultra camera. And the pond was just, it's like glass. You can see the reflections from it. This is the shot I made with the Ultra camera, but with an ordinary 180 millimeter lens with a 2x adapter, so equivalent to 360 millimeter. I started the camera running when the Pleiades came up above the trees, and I just let it run all night long. I came out the next morning, it was already light out. I had a dew heater on the lens, otherwise it would have been it was dripping water on the outside. So it's about 530-second exposures plus flat starts and bias shots. This is processed in PixInsight. And I don't believe the image is done yet. I still need to do, I'm still trying to figure out PixInsight, which is a whole complexity of its own. But very dark location. So it's the only place I've ever been where you can look around the horizon and not see lights from any town. This camp I was at, when you leave the paved roads onto dirt roads, you have to drive 27 more miles to get back to this camp. It's extremely remote. No power, no internet, no cell, except if you climb to the top of that mountain. Then you can get a little bit of cell service. And the owners of the camp own a generator for a few hours each day so you can charge your batteries. That's it. So, I'll be glad to answer any questions now or afterward.
Do you belong to the Cleveland Photographic Society?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you do? So do I.
Yeah.
But I don't do pictures like that.
Well, this is kind of a specialized sort of photography, more so than your normal daytime landscape type shots, which I shoot all the time. But this is just a part of it. So, yes, thank you.
You plan to do anything with the partial eclipse?
Yes, I'm going to be out of town, but I'm coming back the day of the night that it's going to happen. And if the weather is good, what I want to do is put the telescope on it and track it right on through from beginning to end and see what I can make composite-wise out of that. There's another one in May that I think is a little more favorable situation. I want to shoot that. In the moment I can make, for the 24 eclipse, I'm planning on going to Texas or someplace like that will have assurance of better weather. The moment I can make a reservation, I will, to head down there. I think that's probably the best bet.
Paul says you need to come down to Big Cypress in the winter to capture Centaurus A and Omega Centauri.
That would be fun. Yeah. More questions? Yeah, thank you.
Can you start my
Yeah.
presentation?
If I can get out of here, let's see. Business meeting?
Yep. Thank you. Thanks,
Sure.
Frank. Thanks for sharing.
Sure.
Okay, we'll start our business portion of the meeting now. So we'll start off with Jim Bartell, our treasurer, for his update.
Okay, we started the month of October with $9,085. Only picked up one membership and some donations to food the last meeting. And spent a little bit on newsletter copies and refreshments. We came up $20, Richard.
Still a going concern.
Thanks, Jim. Gail, is Gail on the Zoom? She said she's gonna be on the Zoom. Does she have any updates? My
Hear
guess
me?
is she probably doesn't.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Hi, everybody. So the minutes can be found in the Observer. Again, I want to thank Nora for taking minutes at the last board meeting.
Who did? Actually, it wasn't. It was Jim Bartell did the meeting.
Yeah.
Nora
He
was
did?
sick, so Jim ended up doing it.
Oh, thank you, Jim. You're the second alternate.
Thanks, Gail. Vice President's update, Dave Nudie.
Yeah, we finalized the plans for our holiday dinner. The sign-up book I got over here is a little notebook with a pen. The first page of the menu, Drew actually walked away. But please, if you want to go, write your name in the book, how many guests, and your meal selection. You can go online and look at the menu, email me, or whatever, but I need to know by December 1st, I'm gonna call them, let them know how many people and the food selections. Also, Kathy Nergenbauer, is that her name? She's out at Letha House tonight, if anybody wants to go there from here. She's gonna do some observing, it's supposed to be clear and a little bit warmer tonight than it was the other day.
They're on Zoom, they watched our meeting, they invited us.
All right,
Oh, they're zooming from Lee's
Yeah,
house?
they're Zooming from Letha House.
Oh, that is cool.
hello, Letha House.
The technology.
How many people do we have on there tonight? What's the
We have 11,
Okay,
including me,
so-
it's 10 really.
So 25 in the room and
No,
11.
sorry, I think there's
Cool.
2 of us are in the room.
Okay, social media director / webmaster Frank. Any update?
No, like us on Facebook.
Okay. So now for my update, old business. First part is CAA is looking at purchasing a computer. This is the one that Frank did some shopping and is recommending. So I don't know, some things have changed about that.
$100 cheaper.
So we don't need to do the voting procedures about that. More information on that later. New business. So refreshment volunteers, I want to thank the Whistlers for many years of bringing the refreshments for our public meetings. They have stepped away from that, and so we're looking for someone who can volunteer to bring the refreshments. So I actually drive past Krispy Kreme donuts on my way here, so I can pick those up every time, no problem. But carting around the drink cart is well, that sounds like we have more fun than we do if we have a drink cart. It's not that exciting of a drink cart.
Not an adult drink cart.
Yeah, right. If you're interested or wanting to help out in that capacity, please contact me and we'll work something out. Obviously, you get reimbursed for anything that you spend. Signage for the parking lot. We're going to be working on getting some signs to post out towards the parking lot with arrows pointing to this location for those who are not familiar with the campus, especially as things seem to kind of head back towards normal. Opening up discussion on this one, we talked at the last board meeting about the possibility of the club purchasing a set of binoculars on a parallelogram mount for the observatory. And I thought before we went down that path and started looking at stuff and proposing things, that I would open it up for any sort of discussion at the meeting to see to judge if members think they would use something like that, or if we think that it would be valuable to have during our public programs. I think probably a bigger, maybe like a 10 by 80 or 20 by 100 or something like that, bigger, more substantial pair of binoculars on a big parallelogram mount, so we could just pull it out at the public events and have it easy to use. Carl?
I think it would be stimulating to prospective members, or just lay people to see something like that, to show them what binoculars can actually do,
Yeah,
and maybe get them, thinking about getting a pair of binoculars to start or something like that.
Yeah, that's kind of the path we were thinking too, right? Like everybody's got an old pair of binoculars sitting around, so maybe we could spark some interest in people
Yeah.
for something like that.
Yeah,
Jay's concern was the amount of space that we don't have a lot of storage space in the observatory,
right.
which is the one, and the other was, they would have to be a setup where we would keep them on the mount all the time, because he said that in his experience, people tend to break or drop or bend, or, because they're handling binoculars, there's added risk involved with that.
right.
Anybody else have any opinions if we, think it's a good or bad idea if we started looking at that, Bill?
Are you thinking of the big astronomical binoculars like Orion?
Yeah, that's something that was kind of what we were thinking.
Oh, wow.
Something something that would add benefit for members to use at the observatory, but would also complement our public programming. But something that not everybody would have, access to. Not something that everybody just has lying around their house, right? Kind of thing. Something along those lines. I don't know. I guess this isn't an official vote. I'm just going to take like a general thing here. Raise your hand if that's something that you think would be interesting or valuable for the club. Okay, that's all I need to see. So we'll start researching that a little bit and go down that path.
Hey, Trevor,
Yes.
I do have a pair of those 10 by 90 astronomical big ass binoculars.
Yeah.
And I brought them to a couple of the public events back when we did them.
Mm-hmm.
And, got good reviews from people that were excited to be able to work through them. So I can bring them to the next couple of public events.
Okay. And those parallelogram mounts are nice, right? Because once you get the object in there, no matter how tall or short someone is, you can just lift them up and down, and
Yeah.
it'll stay trained on that object. So they might complement our public programming well, I thought. So, okay, excellent. Also, we have a new appointee. I'm appointing Gary Cater as our Baldwin Wallace liaison. I thought because of his integral part in getting this meeting space for us, we're going to give him that title. I'm assuming over time we're going to be working with him a little bit more closely to get to know the folks at the university more and work on that relationship. So he'll be starting to be listed as that title. Also, I'm just going to kind of get some ideas that we're going to need some help with for next year. First one is the future of the Observer. We are not getting rid of the Observer. We are looking at other ways of presenting the information in the Observer. But we'd like to get membership feedback and information on that. So that's something we're going to be looking at the beginning of next year, whether it be posting it to the Astro webpage or looking at ways of getting the information presented differently. Also, we are going to be doing or we'd like to put together a bylaws review committee. Just looking through the bylaws recently, there's quite a few outdated things in there. For example, if we're making a purchase over $400, beyond announcing it 2 months prior, it also states that I must mail notification to every member of the club that we're going to be having a vote on spending the amount. And I don't think we're going to be doing mailing letters out to notify people of votes anymore. So I think if we spend some time to go through that and pick through it, there might be some things worth updating in that. So those are kind of topics that we're looking at for trying to tackle in the new year when that comes around. Also, I want to announce I had a meeting with the Cleveland Metro Parks, the naturalists at the Rocky River Nature Center, and I am officially announcing new programming that we're going to be doing with the Metro Parks starting in 2022. And so I've got the dates over here on the left side and some proposed topics that we're going to be discussing. So the purpose of these is to engage and educate CAA members, but also members of the public on a variety of topics pertaining to amateur astronomy. We're partnering directly with the Cleveland Metro Parks Rocky River Nature Center on this, so they're going to be helping us out with that. We're setting the age limit as 12 and above. So the target audience for this is beginners for astronomy, right? We're trying to engage with people who may not be familiar with these topics and get beginner level information out there to them to try and get people, started, kind of break down some barriers to people getting started in the hobby. When we did the membership engagement survey at the beginning of the year, one of the big feedback pieces that we got was that there were a lot of people who were at a beginner level and wanted more information about how to use their telescope, how to become familiar with the night sky, those kind of topics. So that's who this is targeting, but also we're hoping to reach out and engage with the public a little bit more. So the proposed setup is this will be on Saturdays. Setup would be at 9:30, and the program would start at 10 and run to about 11:30 or 12 o'clock. We will do a portion of what's in the sky over the next quarter. Constellations, which you could see, will probably start at a naked eye observing type level and then go all the way up to telescope, maybe Messier objects or bright things that you could see with that. And then we'll get into topic presentation. When I was we have not set these topics. I was putting this presentation together and I popped these in here because I think they kind of made sense as at least the starting point. We'll be working on setting these out. So we had, I thought maybe the first one of the year might be how to learn the night sky, naked eye observing, how to use binoculars, something basic. Then in May, we do basics of telescope use, August, basics of astrophotography, and then October, right before the holiday season, how to buy a telescope. Again, those are just kind of ideas I was throwing out there. So we would do that presentation, we'd have a Q&A, and then maybe like a social period at the end. And then the benefit that we're getting from the metro parks on this is that they are going to, because we're not having like a membership meeting there, right? This is an actual program that we're partnering with the metro parks on. So they have offered to leverage their full advertising media, arm to us to push this out there. So they'll be publishing this in the Emerald Necklace. They're making some changes to that publication, but we'll be making it in there. They're going to be putting it on their Facebook page. It'll be on the Metro Parks webpage, and they're also going to put signage up in the Nature Center. And because of the time, the time of day that it's at, and I think we will get, I'm anticipating a good turnout at these events. I think these will be a very popular and successful thing. So we're going to try these for 2022. The other thing I'm going to mention, May 7th, August 20th, and October 15th, all of those events overlap with our public star parties at Letha House in the evening, with the goal of this being, come out on May 7th and learn how to use your telescope at Rocky River Nature Center, and then come join us at our dark site in Letha House this evening to put your new skills to use. So they're going to be full days, but it's 3 days a year, I think, that we will be able to do. So we're also talking about the Metro Parks asked us, they have an August nightlife event that they're planning. It's going to be in Bay Village. It's going to be geared more towards adults, but they'd like us to participate in that. Dates to be determined on that. And they also want us to, they'd like to partner with us to do some kind of children's programming, probably in the summer. The naturalist there, her specialty is dealing with children's groups. And so she asked if we would be interested in helping collaborate with them on some children's programming as well. So there's some opportunities for that there as well. So I know this, if you're interested in volunteering to help out for these or any of the planning or development or participation, we're going to definitely need some help on these. We've been talking about these at the board meeting for a while, and my line the entire time is if we don't get a single volunteer, I'll do it all myself. I feel that strongly that these are going to be important programs or exciting new programs for us, but I'd love to get volunteers. So if any of you are interested in helping out, please let me know. We're going to have to start getting the schedule put together and so that they can start publishing it in the Emerald Necklace and so forth. So that's right around the corner. Also, our 2022 membership drive starts in November. So if We have options. You can pay by cash or check at the meeting with Jim over here, or we also have electronic option via PayPal on our webpage. You can renew, if you have magazine memberships, you can renew them by paying Jim at the club discount rate, or also both of the magazine publishers have an option for renewing at the club rate online through them directly instead of routing it through Jim. So I will, I'll get the fresh links out to everybody for that in case you're interested in renewing that way instead of going through the club for that. It's a little bit easier to do it directly through them. I also put this section in here. Where do your dues go? What are you paying for when you pay for, when you pay your membership? So our liability insurance, which we're required to have by Medina County Parks and the Cleveland Metro Parks for the either any programming we're doing and the overnight permits, is about half of our membership income on any given year. It's about $1,200 or so. CAA also has about $400 right now in web services that we have, which includes the hosting of the web page, the club email accounts, and also our Zoom account that we've been, I think all the people on Zoom are happy that we have it, so that's in there. At the annual convention, food and supplies for our annual convention in the summer come out of that. Also stamps for mailing the requests for the raffle prizes. That comes out of that as well. We got our P.O. Box rental in North Olmsted. It's almost $170 a year. And the donuts that we have at the meeting also come out of that, out of your dues. So, yeah, that's what you're paying for. That's the stuff that we need just to keep CAA up and running. And so we're grateful for our renewals so that we can keep the observatory doors, roof off, I guess I'd say. We took off of the form this year, like we talked last time, physical copies of the Observer. The price for us to print and mail the Observer for a member is about $50 to $60 a year now. So we took that off of the membership form for just, for general people. If you need to receive a mailed copy of the Observer or the information in the Observer, please contact me or any of the board members, and we will find a way to get you the information that you need one way or the other. We don't want to exclude anybody just by not offering that. I realize some people do need to get a paper copy of it for one reason or another, but we didn't want to just advertise it, on the membership form as a option because of the expense associated with it. So if you need a physical copy of it, talk to one of the board members and we'll get you what you need for that. Then we have our 2022 and 2023 program dates. So on the left are our 2022 dates. The ones that are yellow overlap with the Metro Parks programming. Our annual convention in 2022 will be on July 30th. Then on the right are the dates for 2023. These have not been approved by Medina County Parks yet, but they have been submitted. We're waiting for them to review them and approve them. So that's the dates that we proposed for that following year. So I already went out on the Facebook page and created events for all of the 2022 programs. So that is out there, but I thought it was worth putting these all up in one place for everybody to take a look. I see Bob writing, so I'll leave it up until he's done writing, and then we'll go on. Well, I think next I just have observations. So before, anybody have any new or old business to go over while the floor is open? Nora?
You've got new business
Oh,
cards
thank you.
that are available over at Jim's desk there. If you feel like you can use them, pass them out to anyone, because I won't be here for a couple months now. So if you want to grab a handful, feel free to do so.
Yeah, the old ones have the old meeting location on them, so don't hand those out anymore. Yeah, Tim.
Speaking of the Observer, the next issue will come out after the winter dinner. I get back on the 7th, the dinner's on the 8th, so I won't be doing anything until after the 8th.
Okay, thank you for that
We'll
update.
still publish it, but just don't expect it before the dinner.
Okay, excellent. Any other new or old business? Any observations?
Yeah, can you guys hear me out there?
Yeah.
This is Paul Leopold. We went down to Big Cypress Preserve this past weekend, and we had a cold front come through. The dry season has started down here, and not a cloud in the sky and incredible transparency. And I was able to observe the California nebula through my 8-inch RFT with a hydrogen beta filter. That was the first.
Excellent, thank you. Anybody else? That's a hard one to beat, so.
Yeah.
Okay, meeting adjourned then, thank you. Donuts in the hallway. Krispy Kreme donuts in the hallway.